south coast up to London so that we can go and see an Inconvenient Sequel, Truth to Power. So we've just got to take a short journey across the river to Piccadilly so that we can get to our cinema for this evening. See you there.
Picturehouse Central, and we're also live in over 300 cinemas across the UK for a very special evening indeed, because tonight we are being joined by Al Gore to discuss his new documentary, An Inconvenient Sequel, Truth to Power, the highly anticipated follow-up to the Oscar-winning documentary that basically brought climate change to the forefront of popular culture. And tonight we want to hear from you. So if you have a question for the former Vice President, or indeed if you have a comment, if you want to make your voice heard this evening, you can by using the hashtag Ask Al Gore. So please do get your questions and your comments in. And now it is my absolute honour and great pleasure to welcome to the stage former Vice President Al Gore. We have so many questions to ask you. I'm going to get started straight away. First, can I ask you, following the first film, the first documentary 10 years ago now, how did you feel about the response that it received, and what changes did you see take place after that first documentary?
Well, I was really gratified. Just one second. Hi there.
No, sorry.
I've got one more inconvenient treat to tell you.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
This was a Kanye West moment.
Do we have to drop the mic now or something? Very rock and roll. No.
Drop the mic.
Carry on, carry on.
I was
Sorry
really happy about the reaction to the first movie. And though it's not for me to say, so many people around the world made very generous comments about the impact they felt it had, including a great many people who come up to me and say the most amazing things about the impact it had on their own lives. So I was very grateful, and I want to give the honor to Davis Guggenheim, the director of that movie, who won the Oscar for that movie, and also Participant Media, which produces so many amazing movies, documentary and narrative movies. And I want to acknowledge one of the producers of this new movie who is here, Diane Wireman, who is in charge of documentaries at Participant Media, who is also here, and David Lindy, the CEO of Participant Media. We have for this new movie a woman producer and a woman director, so that's about women in film called Backwards and in Heels. But also the other director, Bonnie Cohen and John Schenk, are responsible for the movie you all are going to see. And the other producers, Richard Burge, and Jeff Skoll heads up Participant Media, and I want to honor him. The big changes in the last 10 years, the last decade since the first movie, are, number one, the climate-related extreme weather events are far more numerous and more serious. Number two, we have the solutions now. They were visible at the time of the first movie, but they were on the horizon, and you had to rely on technology experts to assure you that they'll be here, just wait, they'll be here. But now they're here. And the cost of electricity from solar and wind has dropped so dramatically and continues to go down. In many regions of the world, it's now cheaper than energy from fossil fuels. In some areas, it's less than half the cost. And soon, because of the continuing declines in price, it will be cheaper almost everywhere in the world. So those two changes convinced us that the 10-year mark was a good time to come back and ask audiences for permission to tell what's new. And may I also acknowledge the audiences in the other 300 plus theaters throughout the UK and Ireland. Thank you very much for coming to the theaters. Glad to be here at Picturehouse Central. And by the way, one of the participants in the movie, Lord Nicholas Stern, is here in the audience at Picturehouse Central. And I wanted to acknowledge his fantastic work. He's one of the heroes of the climate movement.
What was the mood like there? What was the energy like there when you arrived and throughout the conference?
It was amazing. First of all, former President Hollande of France and Laurent Fabius, the foreign minister who chaired the conference, and Christiana Figueres, who ran the conference for the UN, and many others are the real heroes of that conference. Nick Stern and I were there, along with many others, trying to help things along. And I was honored to be asked by Fabius and Hollande and Figueres to help play a role there. The mood was affected profoundly by the terrorist attack that happened 2 weeks before the conference opened. And some French politicians said we should cancel the conference, but Hollande said no, we're going forward. And there were 195 countries, 150 heads of state came. Every single one of them began their speeches with condolences to the French people, admiration for their resolve in going forward in spite of the tragedy, and then an expression of how great the opportunity was in the sobering moment after that tragedy to say, okay, we have got to do the right thing here. And so the mood was quite impressive. And they changed the script. And in the past, the national leaders spoke at the end. They had the national leaders come at the beginning to make their high-level commitments, and that kept their underlings and negotiators from holding out to the last minute. So it was really an amazing success, and it was an historic breakthrough, not only because of the commitments of virtually every nation in the world to get to net zero global warming pollution by mid-century, but also because it was designed from the start to send a powerful signal to investors, to industry, to business, to civil society. The train was leaving the station. Are you on or off? And now the entire world is committed, and there have been profound changes since that conference, and I won't go through them, but it really, India just announced after Trump's speech that within only 13 years, they're requiring that 100% of the new cars and trucks be electric vehicles, no more internal combustion engines, diesel, or that's 10 years sooner than the UK is doing it, and I don't know how much sooner than my country is doing it, so I have no room to speak, but this is one of many, many changes that have come in the wake of Paris. That it might do a lot of damage. I feared specifically that some other countries, and I had a few in mind, might use his decision as an excuse to pull out of the agreement themselves. But the exact opposite happened. The very next day, the entire rest of the world redoubled their commitment to the Paris Agreement, as if to say, we'll show you, Donald Trump. And in my country, the governors of our largest states, hundreds of mayors of cities, thousands of leaders in business, all stepped up to fill the gap and say we are still in the Paris Agreement. And as a result, it now looks as if the U.S. will keep its commitments under the Paris Agreement in spite of what Donald Trump tweets. And the first legal date on which the U.S. could actually leave the Paris Agreement, not entirely coincidentally, is actually the day after the next presidential election in 2020. And a new president,
shall we all pray together?
then or sooner, could simply give 30 days notice and rejoin the agreement.
Well, that's an exciting prospect, isn't it?
This video review is being recorded several days after I attended the premiere of the film An Inconvenient Sequel, Truth to Power. I had the opportunity to attend the premiere in London at the Picturehouse Central in Piccadilly, where Al Gore attended prior to the film to give a conversation about his background and about the making of the film. As many of you will remember, Al Gore is a former Vice President of the United States and a joint Nobel Peace Prize winner in 2007 with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And he won that Nobel Peace Prize for obtaining and disseminating information about climate change and promoting that along the political agenda. It's been a decade since the first film, An Inconvenient Truth, was first screened. And if you recall that this film was groundbreaking of its day in bringing climate change into popular culture and promoting the opportunity for citizens to make a real difference and a real change to their environment and to global climate change. In the new film, there is an opportunity for us to catch up on Al Gore's work since the original movie and the opportunity to see how he has contributed to further increasing political and cultural understanding of climate change. It's important to remember that the original film broke US box office records. It won standing ovations at the Sundance Film Festival and won 2 Academy Awards. This new film gives us an opportunity and a further insight into Al Gore's work following on from that original film and his tireless campaigning on environmental and climate change issues. Al Gore may be a little older, a little plumper and a little greyer than he was in the first film, but his tireless efforts to promote climate change shine through in his dealing with the political agenda, trying to do deals in and around the Paris Agreement and to influence grassroots activism in the climate change arena. If there's one key message that comes out of attending this film, is the opportunity to attend it with someone who maybe isn't an environmental professional. Not only do you get an additional insight from the issues and concerns that it raises within them, but also you can see the opportunity of being able to promote climate change issues in a wider context. I attended this film with my son, who's just about to go off to university, and he was impressed by the articulate conversation by Al Gore prior to the film, but also the opportunity of watching the film and understanding the climate change issues and the potential changes that we can make to make it a more sustainable and more climate friendly future. I do hope that you get an opportunity to watch this film. I've tried in this review not to give too much away because after all, no one wants to find out what the end of the film is all about. And indeed, it's not so much the end of the film, it's the journey that Al Gore embarks upon and is continuing to embark upon, and that we can all share in, that is, I think, the true message of that film. Please attend the film and enjoy. Thank you.